Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning. My name is Mutiara Shaommy. Today I'm going to present to you my research paper with the topic of international relations students' perceptions towards UNICEF's role to sexual violence protections on children in Indonesia. Here are our tables of contents. The first one we will going to discuss about the introductions. Second one is the literature review. The third one is the methodology. And last but not least, our findings and discussions. The introductions. The emergence of sexual violence should be an important issue that must receive a lot of attention from various parties. Sexual violence includes a range of behaviors such as attempted or completed rape, coercions, unwanted contact, and unwanted non-contact experiences such as harassment. Therefore, in order to protect the rights of children, the United Nations formed a special organization for them named UNICEF, or United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund. Article 34 of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child states that every child has the right to be protected from sexual exploitation and abuse, including prostitution and involvement in pornography. Consequently, UNICEF, as an international organization working in the field of child protection, is obliged to be able to assist and cooperate with countries in the world to protect children from sexual violence. The study revealed that children in Indonesia in the age range of 6 to 12 years has experienced the most frequent sexual violence for 33% and emotional abuse for 28.8% compared to physical violence 24.1%. This violence can be felt by every child, whether it is a girl or boy. Even today, many cases of sexual violence against children come from the family environment of the child's neighborhood. Data from the Indonesian Child Protection Commissions, or KPAI, noted that as many as 4,294 cases of violence against children were committed by families and caregivers. The study aims to identify the scope of the problem of sexual violence against children in Indonesia, help to prevent the spread of the same cases, and become a reference to improve the protections of the right of Indonesian children. Based on this, the researcher interested in discussing the following two questions, which is how is the child protection system against sexual violence in Indonesia? And next is how is the role of UNICEF in dealing with the practice of sexual violence in Indonesia according to international relations students' perceptions. Here is our literature review. There are two concepts that lay the groundwork for this research. First, child predators, namely people who are designated as perpetrators of sexual crimes against children because they can make anyone a victim, no matter their siblings or even their own children. WHO and Noviana both explain that sexual violence against children is the involvement of a child in all forms of sexual activity that occurs before the child reaches a certain age limit set by the law of the country concerned, where adults or other children who are older or people who are considered to have more knowledge than children use it for sexual pleasure or sexual activity. The second concept is relapse. Ward, Hudson, and Keenan interpret this relapse concept as the repetition of sexual crimes. What we refer to as a relapse in this case is that repeated crimes will be difficult to detect again. Next is the methodology. This research used a qualitative method through an online interview to students from the LTC HIB1 class majoring in International Relations of Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. This method was chosen because it aims to investigate and understand the significance of social problems of certain individuals or groups. The final result of qualitative research also has a more flexible structure or framework than quantitative. Therefore, this method is used to gain in-depth insights into a topic or to develop new research ideas. In order to be able to take part in this research, all students who can join the interview are those who have studied about international organizations before. Data were collected using structured interview containing substantial open comments, which were validated to determine knowledge preferences regarding cases of sexual violence in children. The interview was conducted from the researcher in person during a period of 1 week to receive the complete answers. Interviews were recorded via Zoom meeting with a total of 3 students voluntary. The researcher copied it and resubmitted the transcriptions to participants to make sure that this transcript captures what they want to say about their perspective. The researcher did not assume to analyze some of the original interactions that the participants claimed to preference as evaluation material. Here are the questions. First, what do you know about sexual violence against children? Second, do you think that the applicable law in Indonesia regarding sexual violence against children is already fair enough? Third, do you think that child predators have the potential to repeat the same thing after they get a prison sentence? Fourth, what is your perception of UNICEF's efforts to protect children from sexual violence in Indonesia? And the last one is, do you think the cooperation between Indonesia and UNICEF needs to be extended? Here are our findings and discussions. After collecting all the data, it is found that all respondents agreed that UNICEF played a huge role in preventing cases of sexual violence against children in Indonesia. Their agreement is related to the lack of government efforts in responding to cases of sexual violence against children in Indonesia, so that the existence of NGOs such as UNICEF can be appreciated by the community. Therefore, due to the government's law effort, it has an impact on public knowledge and the handling of cases of sexual violence in Indonesia that becoming not optimal. The explanation from the previous interview is as follows. First, the knowledge of sexual violence against children for international relations students. The results of interviews conducted by researchers showed that students' understanding of the topic discussed was quite satisfactory. The data shows that as many as 66.67% of students have in-depth knowledge about the issue of sexual violence. Among the interviewed participants, female students made up the majority of respondents who had more interest in studying the issues raised. Through interviews, it was found that there were similarities in the answers of the participants. Sexual violence against children is considered an act of coercion that can hurt physically and mentally through sexual stimulation or sexual activity without the consent of the victim. Next is, laws that apply to sexual violence are still not fair enough. Sexual crimes are known to dominate reports of violence against minors by 58.6% throughout 2021. This data doesn't then make the government take better handling and prevention actions, even though it already has a clear legal umbrella by ratifying the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. Our respondents stated that the law applies to child predators still not being able to pay for what was experienced by victims of sexual violence, especially for their trauma. In addition, it is often found that some reports of sexual violence are only taken seriously if the case goes viral on social media. This is very unfortunate because there are only a few cases that are considered to have been thoroughly investigated by law enforcement in Indonesia. As a result, many victims don't receive the same justice against the perpetrators, or even the case are left unattended. They agree that the most appropriate punishment to provide a deterrent to the perpetrators and serve as a warning to potential perpetrators was castration or the death penalty. Next is, the chances of child predators committing similar crimes in the future are still high. The high potential for repeating criminal acts from perpetrators of sexual violence against children is in accordance with applicable law. As previously explained, the perpetrators only get prison sentences for several years. This was conveyed by the respondents that it was not sufficient because the crime committed was related to the mentality or sexual disorder of the perpetrator. It is related because while in prison, they do not receive professional psychological assistance that can help them to become aware of their behavior and cure their sexual disorders. Next, UNICEF presents in fighting sexual violence against children in Indonesia has received a lot of positive support. UNICEF efforts in its performance deserve everyone's appreciation. This is also confirmed by all respondents who agree with UNICEF's goal of supporting children's rights, which are often neglected by the states. However, according to several respondents, the current performance of UNICEF has not yet provided significant results for the fate of children in Indonesia. This is due to the high number of the sexual crimes cases against children in this country. UNICEF's social campaigns on the issue of sexual violence are still not evenly distributed among Indonesians. In addition, the existence of UNICEF as an NGO in Indonesia has not yet received a special place in the government, which is different from the situations in European countries. The last thing is that UNICEF's cooperation with Indonesia must be extended. The existence of UNICEF in Indonesia gives a lot of awareness to the community and also the government of the importance of children's rights so that it can be fulfilled perfectly in accordance with the agreed law. UNICEF is very supportive of the upholding of justice and protection for children, considering those who are still very fragile and need the help of adults by their side. This is as approved by all respondents that UNICEF cooperation can be extended in Indonesia. By extending cooperation between UNICEF and Indonesia, the government is considered not to leave its focus on the issue of Indonesian children protection. This organization can also provide more non-formal education to the public about the importance of paying more attention to the rights of children and protecting them. Here are our conclusions. This research resulted some perceptions and opinion from the LTC HIB1 class majoring in International Relations of Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta towards UNICEF's role to sexual violence protection on children in Indonesia. All respondents agree that UNICEF's role in Indonesia had a good impact in helping protect children's rights, which were often being ignored by the government. The respondents also realized that the handling of cases of sexual violence against children in Indonesia was still not good enough, whether it was in the law or the executions of the law itself. That's why NGOs like UNICEF are considered capable of representing and being at the forefront of protecting children's rights in Indonesia. Therefore, an implication that can be applied by the government based on this research is that they must be able to provide justice for the victims through strict laws, so it will provide a sense of security for the community. This is because the actor who has the greatest right to punish crimes in a country is the government itself, while the existence of NGOs such as UNICEF is unable to impose punishment on them. These factors made the respondents give a positive response to the presence of UNICEF in Indonesia and even agreed to the extension of the NGO's cooperation in this country. Through this research, it is hoped that it can help more people who want to make this kind of research in a bigger scale in the future with the content of the variable and the respondents. Thank you very much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.